We focus our work on answering the question, why would employees bother to participate in these programs? You can go volunteer wherever you want, when you want. You can give however you want. There are a multitude of platforms. Why would an employee give yet even more of themselves to the company that they're working for? What's in it for them? So most of our companies offer, well, they all offer employee volunteering giving programs, but as you know, of the Fortune 500 companies, 99% offer a workplace giving campaign of some type or support of some type, and 98% offer employee volunteering support. That may not be paid time off, but there's some sort of material contribution to the product or process of volunteering that qualifies it to be considered corporate volunteering. However, participation rates, as you also know, because you're on the side that is very affected by participation rates in both those categories, is considerably less, around 30%. By and large across the board. So getting folks to participate in these programs is what we do. But we do it, we don't plan events, and we don't find nonprofits, and we don't organize things. We focus on building capacity at the company, and we focus on supporting the individual employee in being able to go out, find a nonprofit, talk to that nonprofit, create an opportunity, develop a relationship, go back to the company, get 10 or 20 of their colleagues to go do a thing. That thing could be international, that thing could be skill-based, that thing could be painting, that thing could be anything, but it's the individual employee who has the capacity and has the mandate to go out and do that. So out of the 2 million, we'll work directly with about 75,000 employees over the next 2 years, providing training and support. I mean, talking directly to 75,000 employees. 75,000 employees, each employee represents 40, potentially represents 40 unique individual other employees who will participate with them under their leadership in giving or volunteering. So, and we tend to think of that as a lifetime, companies think of lifetime customers, their value over a lifetime. Well, the lifetime of an employee to mobilize their colleagues to get involved is huge. And it usually works out that each person that we work with, it represents, if you do it over a period of time, 3 times the potential capacity that you need to mobilize everybody in the company. So does that make sense? So the people that we work with can mobilize, they only are a small part of 2 million employees, but they actually will be able to mobilize 6 million employees. But there's not 6 million employees at these companies. So, so we're over-delivering is what I hopefully am saying if we do our job right. Okay, however, we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about this, the 5 changes, all right? 5 changes that are happening out there because of the kind of work that we're doing with companies, because of what society wants, and because of the interests of the individual practitioners that we're working with, okay? So I'm gonna give you the 5 changes. These are 5 changes that directly affect you in your role on the nonprofit side of things. So some of this we've already heard about, but the 5 changes required relate to these areas. The role of the nonprofit, the strategy that the company implements, the metrics that they're after, the result that they want to achieve, and the approach that they're using. Okay, so we'll go through these really quickly, and then Ryan's going to get up and provide us even more insight. So, first change, and we've already heard this. Companies are looking for nonprofits that are not primarily about philanthropy, but are much more taking a posture of partner, okay? Companies are moving away from being a source of philanthropic dollars. Now, companies will always have a CEO on a golf course talking to a buddy, and the buddy's going to say, hey, did you give to the American Diabetes Society? And the CEO's going to go, no, dude, you should totally do that. Okay, fine, I'll call my person. Next thing you know, the American Diabetes Society is a primary focus for the company, right? That's always going to happen. But it is starting to get reined in by practitioners, right? And that will change over a period of time. Now, so what I'm saying is there will always be crazy oversized checks going to philanthropic organizations. But the broader base of support that companies are giving to nonprofits is going to be around partners. Now, as Emily already said, we go looking for you because there's no way to go through all of the calls and the emails to find you looking for us. However, I do want to talk practically about each one of these changes and see what you think of them a little bit, okay? So this one from Philanthropy Partner, if I were you, I'd be sitting there going, no, duh, okay, I knew that, I've heard that for years now, that I know, that's known. In our program, say an individual employee is going out, say Apple, they're one of our clients. So we've got 400 people now, they're called champions. 400 people who are authorized to go out and find a nonprofit to work with, okay? So that'll be up to 2,000 by December of next year. And they'll bring 10 people, like I said, about 10 people with them per quarter to go and do something. So they're looking for someone. So the change that I'm suggesting is less of a organization to big brand and more of an organization to employee. Think of your employee, the employees of the company, as your primary goal, not the brand. They'll bring the brand with them, okay? If you have an employee who's completely sold out, here's who we look for. We call them stage 2 or stage 3 volunteers. They do this 10 to 100 hours a year volunteering. They're out there, they're active in the community. Many of them are active with you already. Do you know what brand, where they work? Okay, so that's the first thing. Do you know where they work? Once you know where they work, begin to think through what does the company that you work for need out of this potential relationship. You almost all have a way into companies already. Forget about Heather. Don't forget it. You're never going to get to Heather. Heather is like, she's up on Mount Olympus. You'll never get to her, right? This is what I tell nonprofits. But many PwC employees already work where you're at. If we can partner with the employee to provide them opportunities to bring their coworkers with them, that's the level of partnership I'm talking about. I'm talking about going small to get large, okay? So we always recommend nonprofits look through your list of volunteers, find out where they're working, not just to access the Dollar for Doers money, which is available and many nonprofits don't know about and don't access, but to begin to think of the individual representing the brand, and that's your key partner. So what do they need, and how can you encourage them to bring more employees? Once they're an evangelist on the inside, they are very persuasive, right? They've had success, they're taking people out. Heather loves those people. They're die-hard enthusiasts, and she can count on them to mobilize people. They're her primary partners too, right, in making this happen. So they're your key, okay? Number 2, capacity. Okay, we tell companies, forget about events, big events. The only time to think about them is to try and convert people who don't volunteer to volunteer. Okay, we start with volunteers and work our way toward giving. People who volunteer are 5 times as likely to give 5 times as much as people who don't. People who volunteer are also the place where you'll see the return on your investment for a company. So corporate executive board, right? They do just under $1 billion of revenue a year. They're a very large organization. They polled all their members, and they have a lot of members all around the world, trying to figure out what's the ROI of the return on investment of employee volunteering giving. Okay, giving, it's marginal in terms of what money the company actually achieves for each employee that gives. Volunteering is about $2,400. Okay, averaged across a bunch of different companies and a bunch of different worlds, countries, it's $2,400, and that's only from 2 areas. One, retainment, okay, and the second one is productivity. So they brought in all these scientists and analysts and whatnot, and that's the number, $2,400. For every employee that we get for Apple to go get involved in the community, that's worth $2,400 to the bottom line, okay? We're also we're augmenting that study with another one with the Government of Canada to see what it looks like in Canada in particular. But yeah, that's the goal. So each person that we can get out to volunteer, that is incredibly important to the company, okay? So the company is much less interested in, let's go all out and clean up a park and have hot dogs and wear t-shirts and go back. They're looking more for capacity rather than somebody to help them plan events. We don't get hired to help them plan events. We get hired to take the individual employee, give them everything they need, and support them on a monthly basis as they go out and find you and take 10 people with them to get out there. And that's what generates revenue for the company out of these kinds of programs, okay? All right. Engagement versus participation. Participation is part of engagement. Engagement is not a part of participation, right? Participation is taking an action, showing up, doing something, right? Some people define participation as looking at something. It's very passive participation. I go on the site, I check it out, I participated. You kind of just looked at something, but okay, in the broadest sense. Engagement is action and sharing. That's what we're after. Each employee that gets out there in the community, if they do not share their experience with a family member, a friend, or fellow employee, they're not engaged. They just participated. And participation does not get you the $2,400 number. Engagement does. Okay? It's because engagement, participating at the level of engagement generates what we call effective commitment. Okay? There are 3 types of commitment: normative commitment, continuance commitment, and effective commitment. Normative is just how you were raised. It's like what's commitment. You know, my dad raised me never to quit my job, so I stayed at jobs longer than I should have. That's normative. Okay, it's what I kind of came with. Continuance is what HR spends billions of dollars on each year. They'll get you that better chair, the corner office, a little bit more money, whatever it takes to get you to a place when another company comes along and says, we got a better job with a little bit more money, you're left with, I don't know, you know, I just got a new chair, right? So I don't know what your chair's like, so I'm going to stay here. I know it's more money, I'm going to stay here. I have friends here. That's continuous commitment. Effective commitment is an emotional bond. Effective commitment is what Microsoft has because they have an standing volunteering and matching program. And we have interviewed hundreds of their employees who have told us we get offers from other companies, but I turn them down because I know that that company doesn't give me the opportunity to support autism. My child has autism, I'm staying here. That's effective commitment, right? There is a limit. Like if you offer them a certain amount of money, they're like, I'll go, right? I'll just donate the extra money, whatnot. But all things being equal, effective commitment is the best kind of a commitment. And volunteering generates effective commitment. Transformation versus transaction. Okay, transactional volunteering. I'm going to give you a story about this one. Transactional volunteering is you go, you stack a pile of boxes, the nonprofit says thank you, you drive away. You did a good thing. That's great. Transactional volunteering is fine. There's nothing wrong with it. It is good. Employee volunteering has to go beyond transactional volunteering to achieve the benefits that it promises because you need engagement and you need to generate effective commitment. So let me paint you a picture. And this is one we use in all our trainings. So this is a true story. I work at Company X, and Bob down the hall has been one of these champions for a couple of years. And Bob and I are friends, work friends, you know what that means. So we're work friends, and Bob comes to me, and he's asked me on a very regular basis, about 14 times I think, to go do something with him volunteering. I'm like, I always have a good excuse. I can't, you know, my wife, blah, blah, blah. But this time I didn't have coffee. I don't know what it was. Maybe I was tired. He caught me off guard, and I blared out, sure. Oh, nuts. So he says, I'll follow up with an email. This is so great. You know, Bob's very excited. And we're going to be in 2 weeks. And I know I'm going to forget because I don't volunteer. Like most Americans, I do not volunteer on a regular basis. I might do a walk for the cure or something like that every once in a while. If there's a hot dog and a T-shirt, sure. But it's not a practice. So anyway, so I make a note that because in my iPhone, because I don't want to forget. And sure enough, 2 Fridays, my alarm goes off. And I'm like, volunteer. Oh, shoot. I got to get up and do that tomorrow. So I set my alarm to get up early. Next day, it's on a Saturday, I get up, and I'm thinking, where's the email? Where am I supposed to go? I'm not planning ahead. It's a low priority, believe me. And so I find out where it is, and I'm driving, and I think I got to go to get a Starbucks because I'm not. So I pull in, I get the Starbucks. There's a line. There's always a line at Starbucks. So anyways, I get there late. I'm late. So I find a parking spot, and I walk up, and it's called Phoenix something or another. It's youth, and it's painting. So I'm dressed in painting clothes. At least I got that right. So I walk up the stairs, knock on the door, and a guy I don't know answers the door, but he's wearing my company's logo, so I know I'm in the right place. So I said, is Bob here? And yeah, come on in. Bob's here. Bob, Chris here. So Bob comes over and says, hey, Chris, thanks for coming. Yep, no problem. Here's your T-shirt. I hand him my coffee. He gives me the T-shirt. Put on the T-shirt. Coffee. What should I do? Bob says, well, we're going to be painting all the trim in this house. So there's carpet on the stairs. Do you mind taping the stairs off so we can paint the trim? Yeah, no problem. So I'm taping off that. And then I go and find him. What else should I do? Well, we're washing the windows. So a couple of people over there, just introduce yourselves and wash windows. So I go over there and do that. And this kind of goes on, 20-minute jobs for like 2.5 hours. Around 11:30, I get lunch at noon, so I go and I find Bob. Bob, I gotta go. He's like, oh, we were gonna stay till noon. Oh, you can't stay? Okay, that's fine. Thanks for coming. No problem. All right. Keep the t-shirt. Thanks, Bob. I appreciate it. Get my car and I go and have lunch. Okay, that's a typical employee volunteering program, right? By and large. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's good. That's fine. But what we're after is, in light of this slide, is something a little different. So I work at this company, and Bob has asked me 14 times to go do this thing, and every time I have a good excuse, but this time when he comes up, I haven't had my coffee, or I'm a little sleepy, I don't know what it is, but I say yes, I regret it immediately. And he says, great, he's so excited, Bob. So he says he'll send me an email. I make a note, because I know I'm going to forget, and sure enough, 2 Fridays from now, I do forget. And I see the alarm, and I think, what? Oh, nuts, I have to go do this tomorrow. So I set my alarm, I get up a little late, I'm groggy, I head out the door, and I know I got to get a Starbucks, but there's always a line at Starbucks, so I stand there, and I get there, and I'm late. I find a parking spot, I walk up the door, I knock on the door, a guy I do not know answers the door, but I know I'm at the right place, because he's wearing the logo on his shirt, and I say, hey, is Bob here? He says, yes, he is. Bob, Chris is here. So I come in, he hands me the t-shirt, I said, thanks. I said, what should I do? He gives me the coffee back. He says, well, we're painting all the trim, so do you mind taping off the stairs so we don't get paint on the stairs? I say, sure. He says, great. So I go to do that, and he grabs my arm, and he says, but in 20 minutes, we're going to go in the kitchen, and we're going to do a brief. All right, sure, thanks. So I tape off the stairs. In 20 minutes, we'll go in the kitchen. We're standing in the kitchen, and Bob says, thanks, everyone, for coming. There's about 15 of us. He says, we're going to take a minute and just go around and introduce ourselves and where we work in the company. So we all go around. Now I know everybody's name, or at least heard their name. I can't remember names very well. And I say mine. He says, great, thanks for coming. Really appreciate you being here. You all had other things to do today. Pile of to-dos and other priorities, but you took time to be here today for 3 hours, and I cannot thank you enough. Problem? He says, I'm going to talk a little bit about the rules and whatnot, but I'm wondering, we're going to have Jack from Phoenix House here. He's going to talk about why we're doing it, how it matters. So we go through the rules and exits and all that, and then Jack says, listen, I want to add my thanks to Bob's. Really appreciate you being here. It's incredible that you all came. Let me tell you a little bit about this place. Phoenix House is for youth on the street. We have a place downtown. This is an actual place in Halifax. We have a place downtown, and when street youth need a night, they can come and stay with us. But for those who want to get off the street, there's sort of a rigorous program where they can come here, and there's 3 youth and 1 adult. And it's tough. But if you make it into the program, we'll help you get your GED, we'll help you write a resume, get a job, learn basic skills. And you'd be surprised what skills youth don't have who live on the street, like showing up on time, being polite, not cursing at the boss. So we have classes, literally, for all these things. And so it really matters. And the kids who are here, the youth who are here, and they run anywhere from 16 to 28, they're here, they have to do all the dishes and all their own cooking and mow the lawn and everything, but there's a lot to the upkeep of a house, so we need volunteers to come in and help us with that. Things like repairing the fence and the back deck and painting trim. He said, let me tell you why it matters that the trim's painted. Because the greatest barrier these kids have to success is the belief that they deserve it. They have no sense of dignity. That has been stripped away from them through awful things in their life that drove them to the street, and then while they were on the street, it got worse. So they do not believe that they deserve kindness or dignity, and when they get really close to making a different kind of choice for a different kind of future than they were able to imagine before, they will often self-destruct. So the most important message that we try and tell these kids day after day here at the house is you have value, you're worth it, make a different choice. And when we paint the trim in this place and keep it tidy and lovely and beautiful, we are telling them, have dignity, have dignity. And so every time you paint trim, you put a little bit of white trim on that, please know that you are layering the trim here, not with just paint, but with a message that says you have value, you have dignity. That's what we're doing here today. Thank you so much for coming. So we break up, okay, and we all go, and I'm thinking about painting and communicating this message of dignity. And then before I leave, we have a little debrief, and I'm asked 2 questions with the whole group again. What did you experience, and was it what you expected? Only 3 of us say anything, but I'm thinking about that. And now I leave, It's 12:30. I stayed longer than I meant to. And now I leave and I go and have lunch, and guess what I talk about? Right. And I talk about these kids and things I hadn't thought about before. And then I go home and I talk to my spouse and my kids, and guess what I talk about? And then I see Bob again in the office, a week later, and I tell him I can't make the next week because I got a lot of work to do, but please let me know about other opportunities, about other things. Why? I don't know why. But there was something that happened for me in that moment that asked me to go further than I thought or experienced before, and that was powerful for me. And so I want to see if it happens again. And I'm on the journey of a volunteer. That's what we're about. The transaction of painting is fine. The transformation that can come through painting, of all things, is powerful and life-changing, and it does affect the corporate culture. We fill our companies with a better version of ourselves. And that's why this matters. And you guys are the gatekeepers of that opportunity, that experience. But we have to own it and begin thinking about what are the elements to a volunteering opportunity that bring about transformation as opposed to just a transaction. And it is hard. The biggest issue we have in training our champions is getting on the phone with the right person at the nonprofit and creating space for a 10-minute brief. That is a huge obstacle for us because most nonprofits are just after the transaction with a payout of a check at the end. And none of us are on that track here in this room, but many nonprofits are, and I can say it because I used to be on that side. But that's not where the real value is. Okay, so interdependence versus independence. You will see through programs like Impact 2030 that companies are going to start teaming up to do things together. That's coming, right? Over the next 15 years, this will be more of the model that companies are taking, especially larger companies. We can talk more about that later. Impact 2030, happy to tell you about that. This is an initiative to organize companies from around the world to start achieving the global goals, sustainable development goals that are going to be announced in September, through the voluntary efforts of their employees, right? So this is not shared value. This is not building it into the business processes or products of your company. This is how do we enable the individual in neighborhoods where they live and work to make a positive difference, right? And so these are the companies that have already signed on. They'll be, by the end of the year, we're expecting to have 1,000. All right, so it's just in the early stages right now. All right, thank you very much. I'm looking forward to the chit chat, whatever time we have left. Thanks.